Good morning, YouTube, or whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. It is currently Sunday morning for me, and I'm finally going to get to review The June Boys by Court Stevens. Now, I did kind of record this video already, and then my phone messed up and didn't save. So, I'm going to do it again. Alright, so The June Boys is about the main character. So the setup is that every June, this kidnapper kidnaps 3 boys, keeps them for 13 months, and releases them unharmed on June 30th the next year. And now the main character's cousin is one of the June boys, and it is approaching June. And then one of the boys turns up dead, which is the first time that's happened. So now she's worried about saving her cousin before June 30th. And let's get into the review. So I actually really enjoyed the book. It's been a while since I've read a mystery or the thriller. I don't know. Well, I guess it would be more of a mystery suspense type book. It's been a while. I found myself while reading it always trying to come up with my own theories as to who it was, because we knew most likely it had to be somebody that we met in the book. So I was trying to figure out who it was, and worrying that maybe hopefully this, when the reveal happens, it won't be disappointing, and it wasn't. But yeah, it was a fun book to read, just because I was always, like, the entire time I was trying to figure it out and put the clues together and, like, over analyzing stuff while I'm reading it, which is something I do when that's something I do when reading mysteries. That's part of the fun, is trying to figure it out before it's revealed. Which, if it's too easy to figure it out, then yeah, that could be a bummer. But if you feel like you worked for it while reading it, you really put some brain power into it to figure it out, then that could be part of the fun of reading the book. Get into my notes. The characters were all pretty interesting. The main character that stood out to me the most was how crazy Thea's dad Don was. Thea, the main character, her dad Don is like the main suspect, which isn't really a spoiler. I'll put a warning in before the spoilers, but he's the main suspect, and like, he is so weird. It is like, even though I never really, there were some times where I like suspected that maybe he really is the kidnapper, but I was like, even if he isn't, the fact that this dude is just like this without even being the kidnapper is just weird. Like, he's got issues. He's got real issues. I'll say that much. And besides him, any characters that I'll say the relationship between Thea and her boyfriend, he was decent with her in the sense that he wanted to try to, they wanted to be normal, but at the end of the day, they knew they weren't, because of the way they got together and the circumstances with her cousin being kidnapped and everything just being weird. But I just always get the feeling that both of them just weren't like living up to what their relationship could be, because this was just like something they had to get past, and to a certain extent, he just wanted this to just be over, even if it meant, her cousin, he ends up dead and he turns up dead. He just wanted this to be over, so that they could move on with their lives, because it was like taking up a whole year of their life, and they weren't really getting anywhere. But you can understand. I mean, uh, so the plot, it moved along. It wasn't like a fast payoff, but it wasn't too slow either. Like something was always happening to make you think about questioning this character or questioning that character or seeing. Uh, so it wasn't too fast, but it wasn't. I mean, I like fast-paced books, but it wasn't too slow though. So it didn't feel like it dragged too much. Like something felt like it was always happening, move the story along, uh, make you question this person or that person, which I worked with. Uh, see, the reveal, I never suspected who it was. So, like I said, I felt like I had considered everybody at one point or another, but I didn't suspect who it actually ended up being. I did. I mean, I did, but I didn't, and I'll explain that in the spoiler section. So, I will say, because she got me on that, the author got me on that. That's because like if you can, I'm sitting up here over analyzing everything, trying to figure this out, that out, um, and I missed that. I'm like, all right, you got me. Even if I like, and then I go back and I think about the clues that were dropped for that character, I'm like, damn, she really got me. Cause she put the clues in there, but I was like, damn. Even though there is some, well, I'll get into the other stuff when I get to the spoilers. Uh, uh, Negatives, I would say uh, false leads. I felt, considering who it ended up being, some of the leads, some of the clues didn't really make sense then, and I felt like some of the clues that were dropped that didn't make sense didn't even need to be there. So I'm like that it just didn't make sense to me. Some when they turned out who it was, some of the clues that were dropped that didn't really add up to it, to who didn't really match up with. Like I'm like that almost can't even happen. Like some of the clues are almost illogical when you put into account who the kidnapper actually was. Like they were just put there to just set you up to think one thing and fake you out. And I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to have the clues all make sense when the reveal when the reveal happens. All the clues should still make sense to who the kidnapper was. Um, then we go overall. Like I said, I was really entertained by reading the book. I had fun trying to figure out who the kidnapper was, and I was she got me with the reveal. So yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5. I didn't move it. I didn't give it the fifth star because I didn't feel like it was. Uh, like I said, the pacing wasn't too slow, but I felt like it was too slow for a 5, or at the very least, it just didn't wow me enough for a 5. Like I enjoyed it, but it didn't wow me enough to eat a 5. But with all the positives, I felt like it was better than the 3, so I went with 4. So it probably would be anywhere between a 3.5 and a 4. So now to get into the spoilers. Yes, this is the spoiler warning right here. So in terms of characters, so yeah, Don, he's fucking crazy. So he, so he's building this fucking castle because he said God told him to. So we'll do that. All right. So he took his daughter's college fund to put into building this castle, and then didn't tell her. She's like about to graduate college, and he didn't tell her. No, she's about to graduate high school, and she still didn't know that he had used her college fund. So like, what the fuck was the plan when it was time for her to go to college? What was even the plan? What was he gonna do at that point? Like, oh, like I would assume that. I mean, I don't remember. She said that she had whether or not she's applied to colleges at this point. Uh, but even if she didn't, and she was still planning on it, even if she didn't go to college, I would assume that if you have a college fund, your parents have a college fund for you, and you don't go to college, that they either just give you the money, or I mean, it depends on the family, I guess. Uh, but what was he gonna say? And I mean, well, we know what he said. He was when she's like, "You spent my fucking college fund," and he's like, "Uh, yeah," like it's not that big of a deal. Like it's okay because he built a castle. The dude's fucking crazy. Um, and it's like it's pointed out multiple times in the book that he's always been that weird, and it's like, yeah, nah, that's something wrong with the dude. But um, see the plot. Um, like I said, it was a. I think one of the big major things that stood out to me was reading the Elizabeth letters. Uh, and you don't know, which was the letters that Aulus was writing while in captivity during like the last month, I guess. He was writing the letters to, and we don't know who Elizabeth is until like the end, which I never researched to see if that Elizabeth, if the person that he said Elizabeth was a real person or not. But they because you don't know if he's writing a letter, if they found the letter, if he's dead and they found the letters after he died, or if he like kind of released the letters himself and he lives. So you don't really know. And then I was glad that even though the kidnapper was revealed, with like 40 pages left in the book, I was still invested enough to want to find out if Aulus and Tank and the other boys lived. And of course, we found out that the other boys been dead, and it was just him. He just kind of like he was just so out of his mind that he just kind of forgot that they were dead, which is kind of really fucking sad. That's really fucking sad. And see, I was so invested in that part, and um, what else? So like the reveal. I said I never suspected that it was a. What's her name? Let me double check her goddamn name. Is it Rose? I think it's Rose. Let me double check. Ruby. It's Ruby. I never suspected Ruby. I suspected that her and Griff were maybe possibly did it together. They were both a thief. But I never suspected that it was just her for the main reason. And I think I'm pretty sure the author did this on purpose. She always, she said suspect everyone, but they always painted it that the thief was a man. They always did that. The kidnappers did it. I mean, you know, the boys who were kidnapped always like went with the idea that it was a man. Uh, all the police, everything, everyone always went with it's a man. And so for that reason, I never suspected that she had done it alone. I always suspected. I suspected a couple. I considered the idea that she was Griff's accomplice and that Griff was the main one, but I never suspected her alone. It's like why would I not suspect her alone? Like there's a scene, an obvious scene that was obviously a clue in hindsight toward the end of the book, where she's worried about the police looking into something. And I'm like, I read it. I was like, that's obviously like, I assumed it was a red herring. That's what I assumed that it was. But in hindsight, no, it was there because she was the fucking kidnapper. But So that's like the main way I think we're. I mean, I'm okay with that fake out because it's smart. So I'm okay with that one. What the clues that were um the clues though that were odd was what's his face what's that man's name when Aulus he writes in the Elizabeth letters that the that when what's his when the welder who he knows is the kidnapper's welder comes to talk to them uh he said they sat like their posture was like his dad's and they might have sounded a certain way like the way he described his interactions with or how he thought he recognized Welder as his dad or Don that like the way he talked or the way like his he sat, his posture was that he like it had to be either Don or his dad. And to me, that doesn't make sense for it to turn out to be Ruby, unless we're just gonna play it off as, oh, she he just seen it that way because he's just that much out of his mind, and so he's just imagining someone he knows, or she purposefully went there and sat like Don or like Scott or and talked like one of them since we already know she when she wrote on or maybe Griff was on her one that when she wrote last one on the truck when she took Tank that she wrote her T that she wrote her T like someone else, like one of the other characters is known to write their T. What the fuck? It's, sorry, our street is like super narrow and like it's always weird when trucks try to come down our street. There's like barely any room, but um, unless she was that meticulous about setting up other people, um, I don't get how like why that had like those clues had to be thrown in there when they just don't make sense in hindsight, knowing who it was. And also like the main clue that was like you should have seen it was when Thea is staying at their Griffin Ruby's house and she notices a spot of blue paint on the wall where the walls are painted white but Ruby missed the spot and so you can still see one little like part of the blue that was there before she painted it over white. And that was obviously the clue. Who has blue wall? Who has blue walls in your room when you have a boy? And like, so, so no one ever mentioned ever to Thea and all the years she's known these people. No one ever mentioned that they had a son at some point, and like no one thought that wait a minute, someone's kidnapping boys every year. These two just lost a son, and they like run a daycare. No one's like, oh, that fucking makes sense that one of these two is taking boys because they're so depressed or so out of it because of their own son dying. No one put that together. It was like 10 years and no one put that together in 10 years. That part was like, what? It was one of those things where it was like, it felt kind of forced to serve the plot. The fact that no one put this together, that these two, no one mentioned the Thea ever, that they had a son before. That part felt kind of forced. But, maybe that's nitpicking, but that's thoughts I had on those little things that stood out to me. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the June Boys. If you read it, let me know if you guessed right. about Ruby being the kidnapper, who you thought it was going to be. Like, what your theory was? I mean, 'cause my theory, like I said, I considered everybody at some point. Uh, but the main one I was leading into before they revealed who it was that Don had a split personality. It's Gemini thief. Uh, I'm assuming that it's called the Gemini thief because June is like the Gemini month. I think. I don't even know. I think it is for the zodiac. But I was like, well, it's called Gemini thief. Maybe that's like a clue that even though the kidnapper didn't like name himself, that the newspapers did. Maybe it's like the author's way of like giving us a clue that he is that Don's a split personality, and that's what it is. But that was wrong. Um, so yeah, see you in the next video. Let me know what you thought of the book in the comments if you read it, and I'll try to put spoiler warnings in the comments before you if you go and put spoilers in the comments. Uh, try to put spoiler warnings, please. But I'll see you in the next video. Get your free stop down below when you join Robinhood, and peace out.